Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? Can folks hear me all right? That's great. We're about to get started. Feel free to know that this is a live show. So if you want to say anything, if anything gets you going, if you have a question, drop it into the chats. And we're going to get this thing started. Um, First, I want to start with a little bit of an introduction about the Furious Flower Facebook Live reading series. Welcome. If this is your first time, it's good to have you. If this is not your first time, we're excited to have you back. For those who don't know, the Furious Flower Poetry Center at James Madison University is the nation's oldest academic center dedicated to Black poetry. Let's give it up one time for Black poetry, yeah? Okay, and the 25 years since the first Furious Flower Conference and the 15 years of the center's brick and mortar existence, Furious Flower programs have reached thousands of poets, educators, students, and poetry lovers like yourself from around the world. From groundbreaking media and anthologies to children's creativity camps, summer seminars for educators, and decade defining conferences, Furious Flower has impacted literary communities on a local, regional, national, and international level by creating platforms for Black poets to encounter their readers and for readers to experience and engage with Black literary culture and the tradition in new and exciting ways. We'll be doing this twice each month, so make sure you catch us. Um, How's it going, everybody? Feel free to check in, maybe drop a city, maybe drop one word to describe how you're feeling. We're going to keep the chats moving. We're going to pretend that we're live and in person. I'm going to start off with a few poems, maybe read it for about 25, 30 minutes, and then I'm going to open it up to a Q&A, and maybe we'll have a little chat back and forth, which will be nice. So I want to tell you a little bit about what I'll be reading. I've been thinking about two things or writing about two things almost exclusively, which are queer, sex and intimacy, and water, specifically water at the intersection of the Black diaspora, the African diaspora. So I'm going to read poems about that, about water and about queer sex, okay? And maybe those things are interchangeable. Who knows? I'm going to start off with just a quote that, I don't know, kind of embodies, encapsulates what I've been thinking about in regards to water, and it's from Toni Morrison, and it is all water has a perfect memory. It is forever trying to get back to where it was. Gang, gang. All water has a perfect memory and is forever trying to get back to where it was. That's Toni Morrison. This first piece is called Alternation. Is it about this? Who knows, right? But I'll tell you, about 2 years ago, I went to visit my father in Lagos, Nigeria, and we drove to a coastal town that also was a site of a slave port, where folks were, literally shipped to, I believe, Brazil. By the Portuguese, and it's in a small town called Badagry. But on the tour of the slave port, they took us, through the walk of no return, through the quarters. But on the walk, there was a well, and the tour guide mentioned that, slavers made folks who were captured drink from the well, and it would cause them to forget their memory. For about 3 months, short-term memory, so that they would forget the way home. And ironically, I actually forgot about that as I have been exploring water, and was recently recalled to it, and wrote this poem. So I hope you enjoy it. It's called Alternation Well. We drink at the Alternation Well. And it starts with the epigraph. Motivated forgetting is a psychological defense mechanism whereby people cope with threatening and unwanted memories by suppressing them from consciousness. And that's from psychologists Amy N. Dalton and Lee Hung. In Badagry, there is a hungry well of water and memory loss. In Badagry, there was a well of people lost across a haven of water. In Badagry, there was a port overwhelmed and unreturned. To omit within the mind is to ebb heavenward. Memory is a wealth choking the brain and unresponsibility. Violence and the mind forgets in order to remember the self before the violence begat. And Badagry, trauma washes ungodly memory heavenward. In Badagry, there is an alternation well meant to wish away a passage, meant to unhaven a people. Violence is underwhelming in return. What the body eats, the mind waters. Responsible is the memory for unremittal. Royal is the body for return. God is the mind for wafting. Forgetting is a port homeward. In Badagry, hungry memory grows angry. In Badagry, the memories unchoke, unhunger, trauma uneats the royal. And Badagry, there is a heaven of people responsible for the wealth of unremembering, for the well of us across a haven of water, overwhelmed and unreturned. Boom, boom, boom. All these pieces are, I'm gonna call them a working draft, you know. I'm still working on these, so you know. And if you have a question, okay, I see Baltimore in the house. Okay, Tyler, Texas. I've been to Tyler before. I should read a poem I wrote about that place. No, sir. Yeah, drop your city, drop how you feel. All these poems I'm just like editing. Oh, tell us about you. I totally forgot to introduce myself. Oh, this is good. This is good. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, you know, I've been writing poems about the Black diaspora. I think that the Black diaspora is in my body, is in my blood, as it is all of ours. But specifically, I'm half Nigerian and half Black Chicagoan. Um, and so I carry those things through my body. I carry those things through my work. I've been writing poems since I was a baby, and I'm still a baby in the craft, so to speak. I am the poet laureate for the city of Boston, the Arthur of I Shimmer sometimes too, and I cook. I'm a closeted chef, you know. But that's just a little bit about me. Feel free to, okay, Mobile, Alabama. Okay, Gettysburg. Feel free to drop where you repping in the chats, and anything else you might want to say. And again, we'll open it up for a Q&A later. So drop that in there too. This next poem, I've really had the bones to pick with T.S. Eliot. I can't name it. I don't even want to be bothered with this person, but they just keep showing up, you know, in different, you know, spaces. You know, it's part of the literary canon and the tradition. But sometimes I just don't want to be in conversation with certain people. And so this is erasure. This is an erasure of one of T.S. Eliot's poems that's about 7 pages, 7 years long, no. And it's called The Dry Salvage. It's about a group of rocks off the shore of Massachusetts. But there's a particular line in the poem that talks about Black folks and in regards to water, that reads, and the cargo of dead Negroes like chickens and cows in their coops. So I decided to erase this poem, and I'm gonna read it to y'all. And it's called Salvage. Epigraph. Historians estimate 2 million Africans drowned during the Middle Passage. The river is a brown god, untamed frontier, reminder of men unhonored, but waiting the sea about us. Which beach tosses up our losses? Lobster pot men, wailing time. Our women lie between dawn and the ground's beginning. Where is the unprayable, the consequence of living, the silent clamor of an ocean not littered with the past? Banks will not bear the pain of the sea. Is the cargo of dead Negroes a sea mark, a sombre song of wistful regret? Seamen whose bodies suffer of sea, voyagers whose shrine stand with fish, women who queen heaven, who end in the sea's lip, wherever the spirit and the wrinkle of tragedy, there is a shaft of sunlight, a wild, unseen waterfall, music so deep it is not heard. Incarnation for us is the aim of undefeat. We gone on trying to last our temporal life of soil. Speaking of erasures, this is called Inquiry into the Lineage of Watermelons. I don't know why. I know why I'm writing about watermelons. I'm slightly obsessed with them. I don't eat them. I think I'm allergic. But they they have this huge, symbolism. And they're made of water. So that's where we are. But this gets erased twice over. And I'm gonna start with this original version. Excuse me, which is called Inquiry into the Lineage of Watermelons. Watermelon is a flowering plant species in the Cucurbitaceae family, a family of gourds. Its scientific name, Citrellus linatus, is borrowed from Greek and Latin and translate to citrus of wool or woolly citrus, characterizing the plant's seed. The watermelon is a scrambling vine plant that bursts yellow flowers into large fruit. The fruit is effectively a berry with a calloused rind. The flesh is a deep red to light pink with black seeds splattered across the inside. The rind is striped and is described as a mid to dark green. Sweet and composed of 91% water, the plant is a refreshing nibble from the heat of simmer or while watching television. It can be cut and tossed into salads or juiced. Watermelon has a multitude of uses and over 1,000 different breeds. Highly cultivated, the watermelon is grown in tropical or temperate regions and is reported as having a climbing habit. The watermelon is both male and female and is also neither. Notably, however, the female plant bears the brunt of the fruit. Having an existence recognized as far back as 30 BC, the watermelon originated in West Africa. Its present globalization can be attributed to European colonizers who enslaved Africans during the triangular slave trade. Africans carried the ancestral knowledge of the berry. The fruit was a popular crop amongst freed blacks during the antebellum and became a symbol of freedom. Inquiry into lineage. A flowering plant species, family of gourds, borrowed of wool or scrambling, bursts of fruit with calloused flesh, deep, black, splattered across, sweet and composed, nimble heat of simmer, cut, tossed, or juiced, multitude of use, grown and is reported, a climbing brunt fruit, existence as far back as the watermelon, slave ancestral, a crop freed became. And this is called lineage. Species of wool, births of flesh, splattered sweet as watermelon. Boom, 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 boom. All right, this is called Wetland. How's people doing? That's okay. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, we got South Carolina listening from home. Okay, love Elliot. All right, word. I'm going to keep moving. Yeah, is that cool? This one is called Wetland. How I stay glistening in this dry ass world, you ask? First, everything must be wet, like the inside of a throat, except gushing with more moisture. If you believe it is enough, you're wrong. Lick again. Glide the mouth down the spine, line the back, the thighs, hair soaked to the neck like a kink, dampen the sheets and a moan, a kiss, a lake of legs wide and just here, a fountain of good love, a Turan moused, soft and sodden, the chin, cheeks, eyes doused. I hear pussy juice clears the skin, smooths the wrinkles, tacks to the face from the world outside my lover, this sinner swamp, slippery ritual here. We sway the tongue to glaze the Everglades, to gleam each other lustrous and clean, submerge the lips, slip in and hope I belong, bet I fit. Bring me the body. My lover says maybe we shouldn't have sex. And it's the most turned on I've been in a while. How to explain it? Lust lotusing. Greed curdling a curious explorer and to conquer. Fatness always causes a catacomb of stairs. Blackness is immortal in its mortality. The body is a flowering casket, alluring prey, too peddled to risk the haul, even when the sun asks a simple living of us. It's day 26 of the quarantine, and if we aren't fucking, then darling, what are we doing? How else to slaughter time? What other way to know I am alive than howling unto a funeral that is not my own? So what? The mattress weeps, my breath dank, my hair's cob a web. So what? My underarms and thigh wounds ooze. I haven't lifted a limb, moved these legs, shaken this sodden coffin in winks. Ain't I still worth the loving, girl? Don't I still get to ride the procession, baby? Honey, talk me. Bring over your lips, sweeter than the vows rafted last night. Hand me your ass. Let me feed it to my anger. Let me glut the thirst with all this bleeding. Who desires a carcass anyway? I could stretch you into a cadaver who sings. A purring apparition. I could wrap up all this hunger and lay it a precious gift in the grave of our bed. All you have to do, my love, is say yes. Naturally following, this is called Self-Portrait with Vibrator. Again, all these poems are being edited, so I'm gonna try something that's not on the paper with this one. You know, I'm gonna just add some things in there. We're gonna see. How's everybody doing? Somebody said I don't enjoy the taste of watermelon, but my soul needs it. I agree. I do not enjoy the taste, but it helps. Weird but necessary. That's deep. Thank you for putting that in there. See, all of these facts about watermelons. I got more watermelon poems. I don't know how to get them all out. Okay, we got people calling. We got Charlottesville in the house. How else to slaughter time? Wow, yes. Thank you guys so much for showing love. All right, I'm gonna keep it moving. That's cool. Work in progress. I was providing a disclaimer. I'm gonna try something different. We're gonna see how it's gonna go. Self-portrait with Vibrator. Part 1. A machine. A machine. A machine. No. I tell myself, a person poker mugged and kidnapped sentiment. I am a fucking machine. I am fucking a machine. I am fucking myself with a perfect black beater, buzzing, buzzer, beater, buzzer. I am laying on an estate of comfort and secrets. My body is a crystalled secret. Code the lovers could not wise crack a treasure. Find me fawning and fainting, you won't. I can't explain it exactly. Just know the robot fucks me well enough. I open for it, and not for them. I come, scream, squirm, evade the betrayal of a face and orgasm, the ease of being alone, The worry of only the longevity in the life of battery is what tips me to the fucking moon. Part 2. On a valiant night, though, I let lovers hold me despite being massive, unholdable, spilling over. In the right mood, I am a field of legs spread. I help the lovers help me. I lie on the bed, let lips slide mine, hold my robot right there, right there, right there. And when they ask to touch my nipples, I hiss, and I do. I pinch, I pull, I twirl. I am the best coddler. I pound the vibrator around, close my eyes and shake. I shake, I shake, I shake. I am a machine. Woo, still working on that one. All right, I'm gonna read another watermelon poem, and then I'm gonna do 3 more, and open it up for Q&A. This one is called Fruit Plant of the Gourd Family, originating in West Africa. Watermelon nice, watermelon ripe, watermelon child, watermelon sweet, watermelon wild, watermelon seed, watermelon eat, watermelon wide, watermelon stripes, watermelon slice, watermelon green, watermelon smile, watermelon pluck, watermelon weight, watermelon spine, watermelon pick, watermelon sail, watermelon vine, watermelon spice, watermelon slide, watermelon knife, watermelon cut, watermelon pulp, watermelon pulse, watermelon greed, watermelon cheeks, watermelon feed, watermelon teeth, watermelon groan, watermelon grin, watermelon bleed, watermelon blush, watermelon gore, watermelon fret, watermelon flesh, watermelon shrieks, watermelon flay, watermelon flee, watermelon free, watermelon spoiled, watermelon soil, watermelon soar, birds fly the Atlantic and come home to fry. Boom. I don't think I ever read that out loud. Thank you guys for letting me do that. I know I didn't ask permission, but you know, you guys were with me. So boom, boom. Okay. Hey, Angelique. Okay. So I'm gonna read 2 more. Boom, boom. And again, any kind of questions, feel free to throw them in there. Hey, Christopher Diaz. Okay, go. So good to see you too. I have to catch up. Okay, word. I always tell people I love history, so the next 2 poems are based off history, as many of them have been. And isn't the present history already anyway? So whatever, everything's historical. This is, I suppose, is it Afro? No, it's not. It's based off just folks during segregation, not trying to be segregated as it relates to water. Both of these are about pools and happen at public pool sightings. So this first one is called If You Tell It Backward. St. Augustine, Florida, 1964. If you tell it backward, no Black person alive today can be found working at the Hilton. JT and Al went back to the Manson Motel and saw it had been reconstructed, but still a graveyard. Years before, the kids are all cuffed and dragged into the jailhouse, nude, bearing bathing suits for a leap into segregation at a swimming pool. Question: what degree is the burn when acid gets in the mouth, in the eye, or on the body? The girls move from the edge where the manager, James Brock, that's his name, pours a bottle of muriatic acid into the water. He starts to lose his temper, his mind, his job, his white man power built on savagery. Anyway, he gets angry because the kids here are black and ain't supposed to be in this pool, splashing to escape the burden of a southern June barking on their bodies, feverish in their youth, sugared and sweet sweat, never telling their parents they were heading to the pool for some fun to slope the spine. I can see now JT and them just swelling, selling, swimming on a humid day where the summer swelters and heat from the sun glows the skin jet black. So this is a live show. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to read this poem backwards, mostly because my partner always trying to get me to do that. So I know she's listening, so I'm going to try it real quick. I don't know if this is going to work. This is live, okay? We're just going to say. It's called If You Tell It Backward, and this is it. Backward, I suppose, right? That's what I'm doing. Okay. The skin jet black, the sun glows, and heat from the summer swelters on a humid day where swimming, just swelling, selling, JT and them, I can see now, to slope the spine for some fun to the pool they were heading, never telling their parents, sugared in sweet sweat, feverish in their youth, June barking on their bodies, the burden of a southern splashing to escape in this pool are black and ain't supposed to be because the kids here. Anyway, he gets angry, built on savagery, his white man power, his mind, his job, his temper, he starts to lose. Into the water of muriatic acid pours a bottle, that's his name, James Brock, where the manager, from the edge, the girls move. On the body, in the eye, or the mouth, when acid gets in, is the burn what degree? Pool question. At a swimming for a leap into segregation, bearing bathing suits, into the jailhouse nude and drag, are all cuffed years before the kids a graveyard, reconstructed but still, and saw it had been the Manson Motel JT and Al went back to at the Hilton, found working, alive today can be no black person. I know she's going to tell me to edit, but we'll get to it. We'll get to that when we get to it. All right, so this was my last poem. It also takes place at a pool site, and it's about Dorothy Dandridge. I don't know if folks know Dorothy, but she played Carmen Jones. She was an actress, a singer. People say she was before her time, but really she was before segregation, so she didn't get all of the opportunities afforded to her. And there's a story that goes that she was staying at this hotel in Vegas called the Lost Frontier, and she was getting a tour, and she was like, "Oh, I can't wait to get into the swimming pool," and they told her, "You can't get into the pool because if you get into it, we'll need to drain the water." So this poem is kind of like an Afrofuturistic reimagining of just that tale, and it's called, looking for that young edited version, Dorothy dips a toe into a pool after being warned the water would be drained should a black person swim in it. 1953 Las Vegas. And all at once, without and within, each well of wet everywhere swelled dry. The woman in the shower, shriveling, shaken bare. The cook steaming at the sink's faulty faucet. The rust keening and dragging itself through pipes. Chalices unsealed. Air wilts the face. Moisture abandons the flesh, the breath, the girth. Water unflows, reruns away like blood fleeing a wound. The swimming pool, brimming moments ago, now hold mothers who hold babies, dry sobbing at its base. Guests at the last frontier lay leisurely, their bodies broiled brittle on the deck. The black spell is the yes cascading over a no. The anti to the anti. All kept from me in spite. Shall spite keep from you with force? And in another land, unpromised, the color blue opens and spreads to blanket each eye. Dorothy stands at the water's ledge. Her curls and linen lie loose. Her skin, cool and sweet, sings a song unsang but known. Dorothy, a tall tide, coaxing herself into herself. Dorothy, a good curse, moves until waves wade at her waist. The dancing wet rushes to gather at her hips. She cups the clear in her palms and splashes upward. Dorothy lifts her arms in ocean rain, urges the body to name itself religion. Dorothy splatters and ripples bring forth a sanctum. Each droplet is plenty for the city's south side. A shower gives itself to the children on 83rd playing at the hydrant. A spray fills the pot of collards on the back burner. Another flows through a school's fountain once lined with lead. Dorothy swishes water into the sugar breeze, and it lingers in air. No one thirsts. Moisture soothes a lonely throat. Dew demands a mother's seeds to grow. Dorothy raises the ocean. And oh, I want to tell you how her hands cradle full drops toward the sky. How the water could hardly stand to let her go. Boom, boom. That's that. That's it. That's it. Thank you guys. Thank you for clapping over there. All right, we're going to open it up for a Q&A. I always tell folks, if you got something to do, you want to grab a snack, this is that opportunity to do that. If you have a question, feel free to throw it in. I actually got a couple of questions from Furious Flower to kind of get us started. So I'll just start by, reading those, answering those. So first question was, how did you first hear about Furious Flower? This is actually my first time learning about Furious Flower. My partner was very familiar and was very excited about this reading. But I since then have stalked and become a fan. So yeah, and they'll be here every 2 weeks with poets, Black poets, rocking this mic during this quarantine, during this COVID, during this pandemic. So I'm gonna move on to the next question. Again, if you have a question, feel free to drop it on in. The next question I have: what was your most dramatic encounter with a poem? That's a great question. What was your most dramatic encounter with a poem? I'm ashamed to admit it, but my partner and I, got caught up in an HBO whirlwind, and we watched all of the BMV HBO series yesterday. And I think there was a quote from a young person who had heard a spoken word poem for the first time. And he said, there's no other feeling like when you feel that first poem. And I guess that immediately took me back to myself as a young person at my first slam competition in Chicago at Louder Than a Bomb. My teacher dragged me to go listen, and I remember just literally being so wide open. I don't even have another word to explain for it, but just feeling so open, so vulnerable, seeing myself in the person, but not at all, just learning so much through a poem. And just the idea that a person could stand or, have it exist on paper and have the entire world stop and have the world just exist in that room and have it be that young person's voice. I think that was like my most dramatic encounter. But that is also to say that almost every encounter with a poem is pretty dramatic, right? Like all poems do something and do a choking, if you will. They do something to the spirit, to the reader. So I don't know. My first time hearing a poem um, by a peer as a young person was definitely monumental. But also, them poems, right? Um, okay, word. I'm Helen of Troy, Dorothy Dandridge. Oh, facts, right? That Dorothy poem was amazing. Thank you guys so much. First poem. Mm. Okay, word. I gotta talk about that trip. All right. So let me answer one more question from my mini script, and then we're gonna get into this question that's in the chat. Um, Name a poet you love that not enough people know about. Wow, that's an interesting question. I mean, there are so many great poets. I guess the name a poet you love that not enough people know about. I don't know. That's like literally all of my people, all of my young people are great poets. My partner is a great poet. All of my friends are great poets. Like all the people you are in community with is also probably a really incredible poets. I think those are sometimes the poets we need to invest in are the people right next to us. We need to read their work. We need to give it feedback. We need to workshop with folks, including ourselves, right? I think that is like not answering the question, but I would definitely say, I don't know, check in with your local people, your friends who write poems. You know what I mean? All right, so Gavin, I hope I pronounced that last name correctly, asks, talk about your trip to visit, connect to your parental side, please. Yeah, so the first poem I did was about Alternation well, that I had the chance to visit in Lagos, Nigeria. But the trip was pretty monumental. It was just incredible, really. I don't know, people keep dropping the book name in there. I shimmer sometimes too, but it opens with a poem about my father being deported or reimagining the deportation of my father. But when I went about 2 years ago, that was also the first time I had seen him in 20 years. So it was really an incredible trip back. The thing is, the trip hasn't ended, right? I feel like even now, even here, wherever I am, I'm constantly having to make the trip back, so to speak, whether that means researching like indigenous African religion, whether that means like actually calling in and being in some kind of ritualistic practice with my father, whether that means reading African, specifically Nigerian writers. There are so many great Nigerian women, genderqueer writers out here really doing their thing. So like, I don't know, I'm constantly making a trip back. Whether that means going to the South, you know what I mean? I think that's another whole kind of trip I've been thinking about and honestly have been planning for a good year and a half. I'm getting sad, I'm getting teared up. I was planning to do some research in the South this summer. But with COVID, everything's up in the air. So like, I don't know, I'm constantly making a trip back in my work. Whether it be across seas, whether it be down south, whether it be Chicago, wherever my people are, I'm constantly researching and seeking, making those trips, if that makes sense. But okay, I got something from Mary. I'm gonna read it real quick. 40 some odd years ago, I was a swimming instructor. Talk about it, okay? And lifeguard at Cedar Grove Pool. Your poem reminds me of those days. Wow. I'm glad that folks getting those memories. Dang. Thank you for saying that. Talk about these theorizations around water. I'm so intrigued by what water holds. Tell me your thoughts and how they're moving into these poems. I got so many thoughts about water. I cannot encapsulate it best. So I have a couple of theories. I guess one of the ones I've been holding on to is the idea that water is not created or destroyed. That's what they say about matter, but all the water that has ever existed on this planet has always been here. It doesn't leave. It doesn't, there is no new water, right? So that means that water has seen it all, right? It is literally a vessel of history, of memory, right? And that's why I hold on to that Toni Morrison quote, water has a perfect memory. It is forever trying to get back to where it was, because really, I think that scientific fact that it has always existed makes it a witness. Sometimes I think of it as a weapon used with oppression, whether it be fire hoses, whether it be Hurricane Katrina, whether it be refugees crossing and not being able. But also sometimes I think it's this really interesting intersection of joy, whether that be the fire hydrant, whether it be, the fact that our bodies are made up of what, 70% water. I don't know. That's definitely one of the theories I've been thinking about. Another one I've been thinking about, I think, is really around. I also think of water as the bloodline of the diaspora, right? It's like if the diaspora is the body, water is our blood. So I don't know. I haven't wrapped my brain around that fully, but that's something I've been holding on to. And I have been reading something recently just about water and like the fact that one, our bodies are 70% water, but all of us um, have water. Like that's our water is not contained to our bodies, right? We pee, we bleed, we cry, we sneeze, we snot. All of that is like at its base water. And if our water is all out in the air, and of other waters, that means that we are all like a connected body of sorts and can be and have the possibility to be, right? I'm still thinking about that and processing that, but I think that's so interesting. Um, because water, when it gets separated, or like, you can't really separate it, comes back to where it was, right? It comes back to where it was. And what does that mean if we are 70% water and, and the human next to me is 70% water? Are we trying to do this? But I'm just processing out loud. Boom, boom. Okay, so get to some more questions. Thanks. Somebody said, thanks, Glennis. Angelique Palmer says, Crystal, exclamation point. Crystal laughs. Noelle and Glennis are connecting. Not Brooke says, what is your name? I came in late. Can't see it anywhere. Love your stuff. That is so important, right? Thank you for asking that. I'm going to put it in the chat, but my name is Porsha Olaiwola. I'm going to pin it so folks can check it out. But find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram. Let me see if I have more questions. Porsha Olaiwola. www.Porsha Olaiwola. Oh, somebody already answered it. See, I'm so slow. I just be chatting. You really can't get me start chatting. That question about water. Water is the bloodline. Boom, boom. Dang. Talk about intersectionality as it relates to your life and experience. Meaning of last name. I always forget. I think it's something like one of them is a gift, one of them is a messenger. I have to look it up. I'm terrible at this, but it is Nigerian, and it's like actually my father's middle name. My father's last name is Nelson, and coming over to the States, we used Olaiwola, which is the middle name. But somebody to talk about intersectionality. I guess I don't really have too much to say, mostly that it just exists, and I guess the work speaks for itself in regards to the Black diaspora and queerness, and queer womanness. I think that's my intersectionality. I think like it's not something I can talk about, mostly because it's not something that I can escape. It just is. It exists, on all types of levels, and I mean, I imagine a lot of us have intersecting identities, whether we choose to open up to it or not. But thank you for that. What work do you want your poems to do in the world? Man, that's such a risk. I mean, a interesting question. I think I'm always wondering that. Like, are the poems doing enough work? What do I want them to do? I don't know. I think mostly like bring people together, and whether that means a person sitting in a room alone reading a poem and they see themselves and they're brought together with themselves, that feels good. I want my people to see themselves, those being multiple people, multiple intersecting identities, to see themselves. I want it to be permanent and forever and a part of a canon. I told somebody once, on some blocks I am a part of their canon, right? Like I'm on my own little, canon, or so to speak, but I do want how my tongue is laced and listed to exist in a way that shifts what we deem, I don't know, preservable, so to speak. But I guess that's the work. I don't know. I want it to be a representation of the times. It's a constant question. Like, I'm like, when we got in this quarantine, I'm like, how can I even write poems about water? And I couldn't, actually. I really couldn't, because, the job of the artist is to reflect the times. So I have been balancing that. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. And I'm a constant question. Do poems do enough? People hungry. You know what I mean? Are the poems doing enough? Boom, boom. Somebody said, talk about your performance aspect of poetry for you. How does it play? That's an interesting question, especially with the last question, right? Like performance and what does that mean? Especially with COVID, especially with no audiences being allowed. Um, but I don't know. I really love performance. It's been interesting to be in an MFA program, be a laureate, and also be, well practiced in slam and performance poetry. I cannot untangle the two, those two traditions, those two literary traditions. They feel very well tied and closely connected. And sometimes, I think about performance when, you're in eighth grade, they make you memorize a poem, they make you memorize somebody else's poem. And it really is so you can get closer, a closer understanding of what's happening in the poem, the moves the poet's making. And I think about what that means for me in my own work, right? Like, how can I write this one thing? But then when I get to performing it and memorizing it, how close does that bring me to my own creation? How close does that bring me to exactly what I meant? So I think sometimes performance becomes very spiritual for me. And it's really an imperative part of my practice. All right, I'm gonna try to take two more. Maybe we'll have time for a few more. How do you heal as you create? I don't know. I think I probably try to heal before I create, if that makes sense. Sometimes I wonder if not healing as you try to create is a hindrance to the healing. You know what I mean? Or trying to create before the healing. I always feel like the healing. I work on the healing first. Whether that means I'm sitting and meditating or tarot as a daily practice before I can even begin to write. So I don't know. I think those things work in tandem, or they have been. I have been trying to do those things in tandem, but I definitely put one foot before the other. Whether that means, this poem isn't meant, maybe it's meant to be written, but it's not meant to be said aloud or given. Maybe it is a part of the process in and of itself, right? But I do think the healing happens first. Hey to everyone who just joined. Thank you, Travis. McKinley says, what are some of the activities and initiatives you've pursued as Boston Poet Laureate? I ain't done nothing. You hear me? No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But really, I feel like there's so much to do, which is what I'm trying to say. I've been in a row for about 1 year and 5 months. I still have a year and 2 years, 3 years, about 3 years left. 2 years, I can't remember, 5 minus 12, 7. 2 years and 7 months left. So I feel I'm at the point where I'm trying to map out what the next couple years look like and the work I want to do. But we started a Youth Poet Laureate program, which has been super exciting. We did a very interesting poetry exchange with some poets from Philadelphia and their laureate, as well as some Boston poets. That was pretty cool. I, during the COVID, created some space around workshops, just doing some free workshops open to the public. We have been planning that for a while, but due to things being digital, we had to do that. But I am cooking up quite a few things that I'm hoping to get started in the fall. Some of which I cannot reveal just yet, but those are some of the things. And really, I've been hoping to do some things around housing specifically. It's very expensive to live in Boston, but housing around artists, and trying to, again, make sure the poems are doing the work, but also how to do the work as just a person, So those are some things I've been thinking about. All right, we're going to take two more. I know some new people came, and I'm so slow. The thing is, I just talk entirely too much. I get too pumped up and excited, Okay, so how did the watermelon poem come about? I don't know. I really been thinking a lot about watermelons. I'm the one with the watermelon slide, the watermelon splice. That one came first. And I just have been thinking about watermelons, and like just their representation within Black culture, specifically in the antebellum era, and those stereotypes that came out of that. And the second one actually came from a prompt from Rajiv Mohabir, who's my professor at Emerson, who um, just gave us an example of inquiry into a particular plant species, and I have been obviously meditating on watermelons, and so I thought that would be a great fit for me. So I said we're gonna ask a few more questions. I see that I have 12 comments, but I do not know how to access them, which means that might have been our last question. Yeah. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right. So, before I get out of here, I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining me. It's been good. It's been good to talk to folks or like have you listen to me. I'm sorry for talking at you like that. But it's been good. Thank you for letting me read these poems. Thank you for being here with me. It's felt like such a good day, such a good start to my day. I hope y'all stay safe this Memorial Day weekend. I hope y'all stay social distanced. Okay? Don't let it get you. Um, and then I'm going to tell you about what Furious Flower has coming up. So the next reading will be on June 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Furious Flower Facebook page, which is where you are right now. And the reading will be with Derek Weston Brown. To get details on this and other Furious Flower programming, follow Furious Flower on Facebook and visit their website, www.jmu.edu/Furious Flower. My name is Porsha Laiwola. Y'all have been so good to me. Thank you. And hopefully y'all tune in next week, the next 2 weeks.